All right, welcome back. It's been a kind of rough day in terms of a couple issues I've had with my car, but um, must keep going on. Must keep talking about important shit that is affecting our society. Well, in this case, maybe not as much. Look, last Friday, the Cleveland Cavaliers were finished getting swept in the NBA Finals by the Golden State Warriors. You may have noticed a week earlier I put a video out that said, the NBA sucks. It's fucking rigged. It's bullshit. I don't give a fuck anymore. I think this video is in part one of the indicators why a lot of people who used to be pretty big basketball fans don't care anymore. I wouldn't say I was like, Spike Lee level basketball fan, but I was definitely one of the more literate fans back when I was in middle school and high school. In terms of, in that era, of course, that was the Jordan era, Sean Kemp. There was Gary Payton, the glove. Who else? Dikembe. No, not in this house. So there were some amazing players that I don't think that there are personalities like that nowadays. I mean, there's some good players. Don't get me wrong, and Kyrie Irving, for example, was a player that I thought was, he really brought something new to the game. Also a flat Earth believer, so you know, can't have enough of those. Got to give him respect. Flat Earth denier in the NBA. I still think he was trolling on it, but who knows? Well, anyway, LeBron watch is starting, and I remember it must have been. I guess technically, yeah, it would be 8 years ago because it's been 4 years with Cleveland, and then before that, 4 years with Miami. Those are the past 8 seasons of LeBron James' career. So 8 years ago, there was a LeBron watch when they got knocked out in the NBA Conference Finals against Boston. The Cleveland Cavaliers did, and people were like, "Well, his contract's up. Where's he going to land?" And of course, that's when the decision happened. Like a month later. By the way, in this SI article, they go through exactly how free agency begins. It doesn't. I don't understand what the point is. Why they make free agency start like a month after the season. It's not a whole month, but still, as far as I'm concerned, free agency should start like literally the day after. But there could be some sort of procedural issue or something. So until July 1st, restricted free agents can't even have their offer sheet signed with a team. So a restricted free agent, if I remember, is somebody who the team that they're already with, they have the opportunity to match any offer that they get. Okay? Then unrestricted free agent would be somebody who, literally anybody can bid on him. He can just say, screw you to the team that he's already on. Let's say he plays for Denver and he wants to go play for Milwaukee for whatever reason. We're just talking here in the air. He would be able to say, well, I don't need to hear your offer for me to stay Denver. You can go pound salt. See if there's anybody here. No. Oh, whatever. Just talking some basketball bullshit here. So essentially, LeBron James. Here we go. So should he stay or should he go? Will he stay or will he go? they're ripping off the Clash song. Those questions will be discussed over and over until LeBron James. It can't get any more cheesy than that. LeBron James decides in early July where he wants to play next season. Now, also after the decision, 4 years later, he also had, of course, the decision to come back to Cleveland, and that was another big event with that. And the first time when he went to Miami, there was this bizarre outpouring of exaggerated outrage towards LeBron James by the fans here, which I think they were right in saying the guy had kind of stabbed the city in the back because the team's value or at least the ticket value plummeted within like a minute. The seats that were once worth $180 were worth $16 or something. The whole the decision was really it was a cataclysmic moment in the city's history, and people burned his jerseys and they went and there was even I remember this is a show I used to listen to on the radio, and I really liked that show, but they've kind of soured on me, and I'm not gonna really go into it because I'm not interested in fighting with the fans of the show, and I still respect them to some degree. But the Rovers Morning Glory show over here, they actually had a curse put on them. They would never have a championship or something. They hired these witches to do it, and they had like this disgusting brew made. Well, he won a championship like this season, 2 seasons later. It wasn't that season. The first season in Miami, he lost to the Mavericks. They made it to the finals, and they lost like an amazing series to the Mavericks. Possibly one of the last good series in the NBA. Well, there was that one, and then there was the ones against San Antonio were good. And then there was the series when he played against Golden State in 2016 when he won. But since then, it's been like, who gives a shit? One season they get, this season they got swept. It's even worse than before. 2017 they got beat 4-1, even with Kyrie Irving. So yeah, it wasn't a great look for them. So let's see here. But in any case, what's the big deal about this? Well, a lot of people have taken to looking at LeBron James as a symbol of sports in this city. But come the end of this or the beginning of this free agency period, that's going to be over. The city will lose the biggest sports icon it's had since probably 1967. When Jim Brown retired. Jim Brown was a running back for the Cleveland Browns back in the 60s when there were like 5 teams in the league, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's the most amazing running back in the history of the league." Well, they played teams that were, made up of part-time factory workers also at the time. I think yeah, back in the 60s, it was conceivable that an NFL athlete would have like an off-hours job because, salaries were like, I think salaries were an average of less than $20,000 per year. So, and by the way, the season was only 12 or 14 games long. So anybody who's saying, "Oh, it's Jim Brown, one of the greatest athletes of all time," yeah, for his era, he was one of the greatest athletes of all time. I don't think it's not the same thing with baseball. Baseball's always had a pretty long season, and some of these players like Ted Williams. It's unbelievable how they racked up those statistics. I don't think Jim Brown, if he was playing today, it would be a good question how good of a player he would be. But we're not. This isn't about Jim Brown. It's about LeBron James, who he politically, socially, culturally, I would say he's way beyond Jim Brown today because the NBA now is a major it's a major industry now. There's teams that they get arenas built for them nowadays in the United States, as opposed to back in the 60s when it was conceivable. Basketball wasn't that big. Some of these teams played in like college arenas. The necessity of having a full-fledged pro arena was not as big as it became probably in the early 90s. The Jordan era really broke things through. Nice haircut. I've had a haircut like a while ago. Welcome Pinochet, Arjun, Malevolent Rider. You do know E3 was happening? I don't know that much about E3. So, yeah, I know it's happening. I don't. I mean, I'm not a gamer. I'm sorry. No disrespect. I have no clue. I know it's that esports thing. So, you know, a lot of people are excited about it. I've never been a gamer, so you know what? At this point, E3 might be more important than the NBA. I mean, I'll say it that way. So Cleveland can offer James a 5-year deal worth nearly $209 million, and other teams can offer him a 4-year deal worth about $150 million. So this is what's really messed up. That people already know due to the stupid salary cap rules and everything. That what's the suspense here? Like roughly about how much he's going to get paid. He's not going to go to a team like Toronto, and you also know that when it can happen. So people are basically on pins and needles over which teams he's going to go to. So another consideration. This is what they say. This is USA Today. The geniuses. Fucking morons. There are 3 teams with realistic salary cap space to sign James in free agency: Cleveland, Philadelphia, and the Los Angeles Lakers. Any other team will have to commit extreme salary cap gymnastics or convince the Cavaliers a sign and trade is worth their while. Here are some teams that James may consider. Cleveland, that's not going to happen. He's not staying in Cleveland. First of all, he doesn't have a good. He even says that. Considers whether his relationship with Cavs owner Dan Gilbert is strong enough to continue their partnership. That's how when they phrase it that way in USA Today, you can actually see what's wrong with that. So it says, in the moment, given the Cavs were just swept by Golden State in the finals, it's hard to see James returning. For the second consecutive season, Cleveland lost to Golden State, winning just one of 9 finals games. Cleveland has a roster good enough to win the East, but not enough to win a title. If the Cavs want to keep James, they need to improve the roster, and that won't be easy considering their salary cap situation. Also, they'll be drafting pretty low. They are over the cap and will be deep into the tax if they re-sign James, but they do have the number 8 pick in the draft. Okay, so maybe they picked up a pick, or no, I think they had a trade last year that gave them the pick, and could trade the pick and other assets for an all-star if James stays. Cavs general manager Kobe Altman needs to make significant roster improvements at all spots on the court: guard, wing, and interior. Beyond that, James will consider whether his relationship with Cavs owner Dan Gilbert is strong enough to continue their partnership. Now, here's the only one. If this doesn't happen, if he does not go to Philadelphia, okay, or stay in Cleveland, which I don't think is going to happen, the next NBA season is going to be the most boring one in the history of the league because basically it's going to be all Western Conference. But anyway, let's hear it. The Sixers are an attractive option. They have a talented young core with all-star center Joel Embiid, all-star in the making Ben Simmons, and Dario Saric. They have cap space and assets, and coach Brett Brown, whom James has praised in the past. Add James to that starting lineup with Robert Covington, and the Sixers have a team that can compete for the Eastern Conference title. James and Ben Simmons also share the same agent, Clutch Sports' Rich Paul. Philadelphia is a team of the present and future. The Sixers need to find a new general manager after parting ways with Brian Colangelo, who got caught up in a Twitter scandal, and they could look to former Cleveland general manager David Griffin. So those of you that don't know what the scandal is, apparently the general manager of the Philadelphia 76ers got caught creating fake Twitter accounts to talk shit about his own players. So, that's a top troll guy, in my opinion. Does James want to play with a younger team? That's a fair question, considering how much he talked the past few days about playing alongside players with high basketball IQs. I think that's not a fair way to look at it. Joel Embiid is younger, but he's probably 3 years into the league now, if I remember. He's more than this was either his second year or his third year that just passed. So that's not a rookie player. Ben Simmons, this would be his second or third year. So I don't think that this is as big of an issue as they make it. Houston. So this one would be, basically the next season would be meaningless because it would be Houston and Golden State, which are both in the Western Conference. And yeah, nobody's going to give a shit about the finals because they'll basically slaughter whoever comes through. The Celtics, for example, unless the Celtics can make a play for a good player. Let's see if there's anybody else. Pinochet says, okay. Pinochet said, oh, good grief, that's a buttload of money. Arguing more like the guy they hired to run the deli. They launder their money through, but still connected. Oh, with this haircut, you look like an Italian mop guy. This isn't a new haircut, so maybe because I wear a hat usually. You guys aren't used to seeing my hair. But yeah, thank you. So here's the key question when it comes to the Rockets and their place in this race. Is there any way that Chris Paul takes anything less than the 5-year, $205 million deal? So Chris Paul making that amount of money when he's actually probably further to the end of his career than LeBron James. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen. That he has planned on landing since forcing his way out of Los Angeles a year ago. The Rockets will likely need that kind of concession if they're going to somehow find a way to land James. And only he knows if the prospect of playing with James is enticing enough to leave money on the table. The Rockets' possibility is even more appealing after Houston pushed the Warriors to 7 games. So it's appealing for James, but it's not appealing for the fans. And James is known to have serious interest in playing with Paul and vice versa, of course, because they're friends. That's the thing. Back in the 90s, it would have been unthinkable, absolutely unthinkable for Reggie Miller and Michael Jordan to be friends, or for that matter, Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan would never even be in the same room together without kind of first aid kit there and a bunch of sumo wrestlers to keep them apart from beating the shit out of each other because they hated each other. And people, it's a well-known fact that the reason that Isaiah Thomas was not on the 1992 U.S. Olympic team, the Dream Team, was because of Michael Jordan. He said, bring all the other stars except for him. Fuck him. The Rockets' possibility is even more appealing after. Okay, so enough about the Rockets. Then there's New York. The Knicks are a long shot, but James is a soft spot for the Knicks mystique in Madison Square Garden. James could go to the Knicks and revive a woebegone franchise that hasn't won a title since 1973. And then they talk about, the bullshit with the coach and the owner, which, I think the owner is probably worse than the coach. Yeah, James Dolan is an idiot. Miami, it said it would surprise no one if Miami president Pat Riley wanted James back with the Heat, but does James have interest in Miami 2.0? It seems unlikely, but don't discount the power of Riley's persuasion to at least have a discussion with James. I don't think that's going to happen. And then they put in San Antonio. I don't know why they didn't go more in depth. Did they even put the Lakers here? Okay, they did. They'll hold the compelling landing spot of them all, most compelling landing spot of them all in terms of market appeal. None of these teams can compete with Lakerland. If LeBron is going to partner with Magic Johnson to turn this storied franchise around, he simply must find a way to bring two fellow All-Stars with him. Is one Paul George, the Palmdale, California native who is also a free agent and widely known to have serious interest in playing for his hometown's team? Is another Kawhi Leonard whose future with San Antonio remains unknown and could, if that team gets put together, I don't know if I could watch a game next year because I hate the Lakers, always have. It would be very difficult even for me to root against Golden State because I've always hated the Lakers. And that's even with, as good as Kobe Bryant was, I hated them when he was on them too. Is it Paul, who is widely believed to be committed to re-signing in Houston, but who has the freedom to join James with the Lakers? That's Chris Paul. James can't head west unless he truly knows his roster is good enough to compete with the Warriors. And that, more than anything, is why the superstar shuffleboard will loom so large. People also forget that they also have that LeVar Ball, or sorry, Lonzo Ball. That's going to be a draw for it. Now, let me put it this way. This conversation I'm having right now, some of you don't give a shit. Like Pinochet, I know you for a fact say you don't give a fuck about basketball anymore because the Sonics left. And I was actually just watching the Sonics Gate documentary earlier yesterday. And basically, I have to agree with everybody from non-NBA cities that the NBA is basically the shithole of American sports. You know, it's much worse than the NHL, which during the 2000s was just a barren wasteland because of two strikes. And I think with this move, LeBron James is going to continue making a ton of money, which is fine. And this is kind of where I move away from the basketball and the free agency issue and the front office issue into why LeBron James move is kind of important for society, for lack of a better term. Okay, look, he is the most he's the best basketball player at least since Michael Jordan. Some people have debated whether he's better than Michael Jordan. I personally, Michael Jordan, I think is really he's in a category of his own. You look at the teams that have won championships with Michael Jordan, and there's a couple players that are great. They're pretty good. Scottie Pippen and Ron Harper. There's other, most of the other players like what was the guy's name? Bill Wennington and Luke Longley and Tony Kukoc. It's like, so what? Dennis Rodman was on 3 of those championship teams. He's for sure a Hall of Famer. He's in North Korea. He's not in North Korea. He's in Singapore this weekend. Arjun says, I used to be a Lakers fan a lifetime ago when I used to play basketball in school. Yeah, the Lakers and the Celtics and the Bulls are the most popular worldwide for obvious reasons. So, yeah, everybody, but people who come from other cities, they tend to hate the Lakers. I think the Lakers are widely considered to be, the most hated team in the NBA. They're kind of the Dallas Cowboys of the NBA. I, of course, am a Cowboys fan in football. So, and the Lakers have won many championships. I think they've won 13. So, you think of the greatest players in NBA history. Jordan had a supporting cast that was at times, only about average. The previous greatest teams ever, you look at the Celtics with Larry Bird, he had Robert Parrish. He had, who else did he have? Yeah, Robert Parrish was a great center. Danny Ainge, he had a number of good people in the supporting cast. Won 3 championships. Then you also had the Lakers of that era. You had James Worthy, Magic Johnson, of course, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You had Kurt Rambis. I don't know who else. I wasn't, I was pretty young in the 80s. But that was a fairly good selection of great players for that era. Certainly better players than, Horace Grant, who was on the first three-peat of the Chicago Bulls. Okay, let's go a little further back, and then I'll shut up about this whole comparison thing. The supporting cast for Bill Russell and the Celtics, which was the dominant team of the 60s, was a ton of amazing players. Tommy Heinsohn, John Havlicek, Bob Cousy, Casey Jones, I think, was on the team. A lot of players that nowadays none of us know about, but in the 60s there was no other team. They were basically dominating. The other main team of that time, Wilt Chamberlain. Well, Wilt Chamberlain was the greatest scorer of NBA history up until Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So, I think he had Elgin Baylor was on the Lakers when he was playing there, and a couple other players. But in any event, Michael Jordan is the player that had the weakest supporting cast when he won all those championships. LeBron James, when he won a championship and 2 championships in Miami, he had Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. He had a number of great people in his supporting cast. Udonis Haslem is a very underrated player for his time in the NBA. You had not Kyle Korver, who's on the Cavs now, but Mike Miller. You had you had Mario Chalmers was yeah, what I mean, let's not exaggerate. He didn't have a team that was all stars, but he had at least 2 other all stars, and then other borderline great supporting cast members on the Heat. Then when it came to Cleveland, he had Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving. So history will remember LeBron James as possibly, the greatest NBA player of the early 21st century. Those people that say that he is the greatest NBA player of all time, I think they're giving him too much credit. Second of all, the whole concept that he leaves his teams, whether it is Cleveland the first time or was Miami after, he came back to Cleveland, that I think is a little different of a character trait than you had with Michael Jordan or with Larry Bird or with Magic Johnson. Those players were 1,000% committed to those teams that they played for. And the civic importance of Larry Bird to the city of Boston, or Michael Jordan to Chicago, or Bill Russell to the city of Boston, during those times, they were really, they were inseparable for, up until later. I think Bill Russell later, he admitted, Boston is a pretty racist city. He got treated like shit. Jeffrey Allen Johnson's here. He says he's no Michael Jordan. I have to agree on that point. He's an amazing player. Michael Jordan, for me, people say he's a piece of shit, but he's the greatest player ever to be a piece of shit and greatest player, period. An amazing, amazing basketball player. Also won an NCAA championship with Tar Heels. Jordan never even, James never went to college, never tried to make it in the NCAA, which is a different, people think, oh, he was good enough, he didn't even need to go through the NCAA. That's a fair point. People forget how hard it is to win an NCAA tournament. Akeem Olajuwon was an amazing Houston team in the 80s, I think it was 1983 or 84. And they were runner-ups. They just lost in the title game to the NC State Wolfpack, which was like a dud. It wasn't even that. They weren't even expected to make it to the tournament, and they went all the way. So the NCAA tournament for Jordan, that's a major career accomplishment that people forget. Why? Because he won 6 titles in the NBA. Christian Laettner won 2 NCAA titles. He became an average player in the NBA. People forget, everything about Christian Laettner. They say, oh, he was just a regular white boy in the, couldn't make it in the NBA. Well, he was a center in an era when there were tons of amazing centers. He was playing against Olajuwon and Robinson and whatever. So where am I going with this? The title says best example of why pro athletes are not civic leaders. When Jim Brown was playing in the NFL, he was considered a civic leader because that was during the civil rights movement of the 1960s. You look at some later players that were extremely let's put aside Muhammad Ali for a second, because we're not talking about team sports. Or we are talking about team sports. He was playing an individual sport. He was of course a major civic leader. But you look at some of these other players that have become symbolic leaders of civil rights issues. Roberto Clemente, Jackie Robinson. Roberto Clemente also died in a plane crash bringing aid to earthquake victims in Nicaragua. People forget about that part. I don't think James really stacks up to those people in terms of that. And in fact, when you think about somebody who took the best opportunity he had a couple times in order to make a lot of money, or to make either it was to make more money. You could say that he could have made more money other places, or he said, "Well, I can't win a championship with the team I'm already with. I need to go somewhere else where they'll pretty much give me the supporting cast that I need." That's not a civic leader. A civic leader would say, this is the city that I lead, and I will build it. I will build around me what I need in order to bring it to the top. And he did that the second time when he was playing for Cleveland. But when he leaves again, he basically forfeits that. It's not the same thing anymore. Um, so essentially, let's say he goes to play for Philadelphia, which, it's fine. I have no problem with him leaving. This is nothing personal against LeBron James. This means essentially that LeBron James' civic importance gets limited to the city of Akron, where, they'll always love him. He'll basically be, he's the favored son of the city. Akron, Ohio is basically, he calls that home. He doesn't really, Cleveland's always been kind of he's had a weird relationship with the city of Cleveland. So the question then becomes, does he have any political influence? I would say not as much. And he already had very little political influence, because in 2016, let me pull this up. So this appeared. I don't know where's the actual thing. Okay, so here it says, he wrote this appeared on October 2nd, 2016. And it said, 2 years ago, I told you I was coming home to Northeast Ohio, where I was born and raised. When I came back, I had 2 missions. In June, thanks to my teammates and all your support, I accomplished my on-the-court mission. We came back from being down 3-1 in the NBA Finals to finally grab what we've waited 52 long years for, a championship in Northeast Ohio. Holding that trophy was beyond words. It still hasn't hit me, but for me, coming home was never just about basketball. As a kid, I didn't have much money. It was just my mom and me, and things were rough at times. But I had basketball. That gave me a family, a community, and an education. That's more than a lot of children in Akron can say. There are a lot of people who want to tell kids who grew up like me and look like me that they just don't have anything to look forward to. That's dead wrong, and that's why I came back to Cleveland to continue my second mission. I am determined to make sure my kids in Akron have what they need to become their best selves. Opportunities, a support system, and a safety net for kids in poverty or kids in single parent households shouldn't be limited to those lucky enough to be blessed with athletic talent. When I entered the league, I founded the LeBron James Family Foundation. I didn't know it at the time, but my mission has become clear. We give kids in Akron the resources and opportunities they need to stay in school and reach their dreams through education. I don't want to see any of them fall through the cracks. That easily could have happened to me, but I was fortunate enough to have support and mentors around me who kept me on the right path. That's what we're giving these kids through my foundation. And when someone believes in you, that changes everything. I'm so proud of the more than 1,100 students in my Wheels for Education. That's the bike giveaway he does every year. He gives away, thousands of bikes every year. Wheels for Education and Akron I Promise Network programs. We're working on year 6 now, and my kids have big plans for their futures. A lot of them didn't think college was for them. But now I hear they want to become things like doctors and business owners. We even have a future astrophysicist. I can't wait to see how far these kids can go. I also tell all my kids how important it is that they give back to the community, because if basketball has taught me anything, it's that no one achieves greatness alone, and it takes everyone working together to create real change. When I look at this year's presidential race, it's clear which candidate believes the same thing. Only one person running truly understands the struggles of an Akron child born into poverty. Give me a fucking break. And when I think about the kinds of policies and ideas the kids in my foundation need from our government, the choice is clear. That candidate is Hillary Clinton, and I support Hillary because she will build on the legacy of my good friend, President Barack Obama. I believe in what President Obama has done for our country and support her commitment to continuing that legacy. So until now, it's been all about him. Then he moves on to, whatever. This. Like my foundation, Hillary has always been a champion for children and their futures. For over everybody, I mean, you can go wild in the chat now. They're talking about children and Hillary Clinton. For over 40 years, she's been working to improve public schools, expand access to health care, support children's hospitals, and so much more. She wants to make sure making schools shittier. What's this? Oh, crap, I have to call somebody. Just text them. She wants to make sure kids have access to good education no matter what zip code they live in. She'll rebuild schools that are falling apart and put more money into computer science. You can't do that on the federal level. You can't. She'll make sure teachers are paid what they deserve so they can give everything to their children, to their students. Again, that's a local issue. She also has plans to make college a reality for more people in America, especially for those who can't afford it. My kids in Akron are proof of the hope and motivation that come from knowing college can be in their future no matter what obstacles they might be facing. Finally, we must address the violence of every kind the African American community is experiencing in our streets and seeing on our TVs. I believe rebuilding our communities by focusing on at-risk children is a significant part of the solution. However, I am not a politician. I don't know everything it will take finally to end the violence, but I do know we need a president who brings us together and keeps us unified. Yeah, like Hillary Clinton. Policies and ideas that divide us more are not the solution. We must all stand together no matter where we are from or the color of our skin. And Hillary is running on the message of hope and unity that we need. There's still a lot of work to be done in Akron, Northeast Ohio, and all across our great country. We need a president who understands our community and will build on the legacy of President Barack Obama. So let's register to vote, show up to the polls, and vote for Hillary Clinton. So anyway, I'll show you like the election. Let me see here. Fuck. So thanks to that effort, thanks to LeBron James, superior effort in 2016, after he won a championship, mind you. Okay, after he won a championship and he endorsed Hillary Clinton, she still lost by over 8 points, which was the worst showing by any candidate in Ohio of either party since the 80s, since I think like 1984. So, if that's how bad it was when LeBron James was playing here and endorsing Hillary Clinton, now you're on a midterm election where people are less motivated to vote, and the Democratic candidate for governor is basically, some sort of shoe salesman, Richard Cordry. That's our current governor. He's kind of like the guy returning the shoes to the store. I don't think LeBron James' civic leadership is really going to be appreciated if if he comes back, he's like, yeah, I just started, moving into Philadelphia, and I thought I'd come back here and tell you people how to vote. It's like, I don't give a shit what you think. Some people have to stay here. Some people, I've said this to some people who moved away from the city. And, they really criticized him. They criticized LeBron James when he left. The fact is that a lot of people want to leave Ohio because there's better things to do elsewhere. So I said, as much as, I think I was rooting for James to lose in Miami because I hated the Heat. I was like, how can you criticize him for doing what you wanted to do more? And what you did do, like a lot of these people, they moved to California or they moved to the East Coast somewhere, Massachusetts or something, or even overseas, whatever the hell it was, and they didn't stay in the city. Why does he have to stay in the city if we don't? But the idea is that as a civic leader, Some of these players have the real gravity to bring their communities forward. You know, Kobe Bryant, I don't know if you can consider him a civic leader, but somebody who played his entire career in LA through a lot of coaching changes, a lot of crap happened there. You know, Phil Jackson was I think his second coach, and built him into the amazing player that he was. Um, you know, I don't think you can say anymore that LeBron James, in terms of personality, is better than Kobe Bryant in any way. I think Kobe Bryant, even with the whole rape thing, which I don't know, you know, again, guilty and sorry, innocent until proven guilty. Um, you know, I think that he loses some of his shine, his luster when he leaves the city. Okay. Arjun says, wasn't Kobe accused of rape? Yeah, sorry, I just talked about that. What else is here? I'm about to close. Maybe I might have another stream later tonight, but who knows? LaRoche came back home to Kansas from MLB and built one hell of a complex in camp. Very admirable. Talking about Adam LaRoche? Pinochet, by the way, when did you start your own channel? Already 3 vids up. All right, so that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Anyway, bottom line, you know, in the modern era of free agency in sports, not just in the NBA, but other sports, I don't think. I mean, look, this is LeBron James in a Laker uniform. It's obviously a projection, but if he moves, goes plays in LA, plays in you know, let's say in Portland, not going to happen. But you can't move to another place, then come back here and tell other people how to behave. So that's it. I'll talk to you guys later. Please like the video, subscribe, share the video, comment below when it's done, and I'll see you guys later.